Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Thames Marathon Swiminar today. I'm Bryan Avery. I'm the founder of SwimTayka, the charity that's running this event. So you're all more than welcome to join this free event. I will be posting a link to the SwimTayka donation page. So if you were so kind as if you do appreciate with regards to what we're doing here and the advice we're giving, feel free to donate to the charity. I'll be telling you a little bit more about the charity a little bit later. I'd like to welcome the people that are on the panel today, which is Jason Tait from Southwest Swim, Juliet Hume for the event organised by Henley Swim, and Jonathan from the Outdoor Swimmer. We also have a number of previous swimmers that have been on the event as well, Andy and Joe, who will be talking to you a little bit later. So the order of this is going to go on for an hour, approximately an hour. When we get to the end, there'll be a question and answer session, and we'll keep running until after the hour. If people want to drop off, they can. If people got any questions, they can stay on and talk to individuals if they need to. So we should be here for you. The order of events are going to be Jason Tait's going to talk about the experience of swimming, breaking down the swim, feeding, pre-swim, etc., etc. Then Juliet will talk with regards to what's happening on the day, safety, COVID precautions and such like. Then both myself and Jonathan will have a quick chat with regards to what we do and what we're about to. Then we'll have Joe and Andy talking about real people and their actual experiences of the event itself. So you can get it firsthand from individuals. Then Jason will talk about a training plan, an approach at the end. So if you are training for either the Thames Marathon or future marathons or any long distance, Jason will be able to help on that side. Then we'll have the question and answers. So that's where we are at the moment. So I'd like to hand over to Jason Tait. You could unmute yourself. There we go.
There we go. Good morning, everyone. So I get the unenviable task of going first, I guess. I hope I do a good job. Good morning. So my name is Jason Tait. I am head coach at Southwest Swim, and we're based down in the Cotswolds, and I'm an open water swim coach. And we've taken around about 50 swimmers down this course over the time we've been doing it. And I've swum it a couple of times as well and had to defer a couple of entries as well, which I'll go into a little bit of detail about. So I'm really just going to talk to you to start with about my experience of the swim and others' experience of the swim. And it's worth noting that this swim is quite unique in how you're going to swim it. It's an ultra marathon swim, so it's over 10 kilometers, it's 14K in total. So it's a swim which you should be proud of doing and even training to do. I've used the swim myself as a stepping stone for a longer swim. So my Windermere end to end, I used Henley that year as like my taper swim about 3 or 4 weeks out. You know, it was a final test of all things to do with my main event that year. And I've also done it as a bit of fun with my swimmers and just doing it as an event itself. So it's got lots of different applications you can use it, but as an event, it's absolutely amazing to do. But it can also provide some unique training challenges as well, because it is that longer swim. There's a little bit of flow with the current. So what do you train for and how do you train for it? So at the end, I'm going to just go into that very quickly to give you some ideas of the training. Like I said, it is a challenging swim. So the first thing I will say is, especially in these times where all the pools have been closed, make sure you're ready for it. So again, we'll go into the training and how you can sort of manipulate that and get the best out of the event you can later on in the swim. But we'll start off with the swim start. Now, if you've not done any open water before, you may not know that a swim start can be quite a daunting prospect for some. I'm not sure if it will change this year because of COVID, but the starts I've done, and I can only speak obviously from this event when I've done it, but the starts I've done in Henley Swim have been, let's say, quite compact and quite busy, because everyone's starting together in a big group. It's a mass start. So at the start of that event, it can be quite frantic. So my advice to you in terms of preparing yourself for that is to get in amongst, if you're swimming with a group of friends or a club, if you can, COVID rules, etc., try and get in with some experience of swimming quite close to somebody as well, especially with a toe float on, because that can chuck you a little curveball when a toe float of someone else hits you in the arm or the head as well. So prepare yourself for a busier start, and say it might be different this year because it can be quite frantic. Position yourself in the start for your ability and your confidence level. What I mean by that is, if you're a slower swimmer who's just going to do the event and plod down the course and get that sense of achievement from doing it, don't go at the front of the start. Don't feel that you need to be at the front of that pack, because you will get what we call swum over to varying extents. That can be quite an unpleasurable experience. For me, who's quite a confident swimmer, I love that. So but be prepared for that. So if you are a slower swimmer, start at the back of the pack, and maybe to sort of one side out of harm's way, so to speak. So the last thing you want to do is get to the start of the event and have a horrible experience for the first 50 meters, and then it put you off the rest of the swim. This is a long swim. You're going to be in the water, for a number of hours. So just prepare yourself for that start. One thing when I first did the event, one thing that surprised me was the clarity of the Thames. I thought it was going to be a horrible, dirty river. It's not. It's actually quite nice. There's quite a lot of visibility, but when you are swimming in that pack, the visibility comes down quite a lot. So enjoy your start. That's the best thing. And that first stretch of a swim is, Juliet will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 4 kilometers, that first stretch. That, to me, has always gone really, really quickly. You don't realize how quickly that goes. By the time you sort of getting into a nice stroke and a rhythm, you can see the finish, not finish rather, but you can see the feeding station to your right, and you can get out. During that first stretch, it still is quite busy. The swimmers haven't stretched themselves out, and so you will be swimming with a lot of people. For your spectators, that first stretch is brilliant, because most of it, if not all of it, from memory, there's a path running directly to the side of it. So if you've got people walking the route with you, which I believe Juliet's going to cover a little bit later, then that is a great stretch for that support that you can get from there. At the end of each, this swim is broken down into sections. So that's what I meant by it being unique, because it's not a straight out swim 14K. You get in and out of the water. So that swim provides that unique experience to get out, have a feed, and then get back in. Now, I quite like that. I quite like getting out and not swimming constantly for that distance. But other swimmers that we've coached said it sort of hindered their pacing. So you need to approach that, and we'll cover that in our training later on as well. So many swimmers just like starting, finishing, and that's it. I quite like getting out and having that little bit of a social experience as well on the feeding side. So you get out, you have a feed, then you get into the second stretch. Now the second stretch is, again, I'll be corrected later if I'm wrong, is quite a short stretch. I think it's the shortest stretch. But there is a big drop in from the lock. So you can either climb down these steel ladders, or a ladder that's provided by Henley Swim, or you can take a little bit of a jump. So again, get used to that side of things, to getting in and out, and that's where your training will come in useful. One thing I taught my swimmers was how to jump into the water using a toe float, because you've got to use a toe float for the event. That sounds easy, but it's something that you need to prepare yourself for, and Henley Swim your training plan, towards that. The second and third stretch, they're the most scenic parts of the route for me, and I really enjoyed them. The second stretch was quite short; it was over quite quickly. But during those second and third stretches, one thing I did notice a couple of times, well, once and a couple of times nearly, there's a few water inlets on the side. So whereas on the first stretch you can sight off of a bank quite easily, you can breathe to your right, and you can keep track. In the second and third stretches, you've got some little inlets, and once I saw some swimmers, go down there with a kayaker madly paddling behind them to put them back on course. So that's the only real thing in terms of open water skills and sighting that I'd say to be aware of. Follow the pack through there. In the third section, that is quite a long one. So that's where you need to dig in, really get your pacing under control, Pacing throughout the whole of this event is quite important. You don't want to go off too fast and then get gradually slower and worn out towards the end. You want to keep a nice consistent pace, work into that in your training. But that third section can be quite a challenging thing for your pacing. It's where your stroke's going to start to break down because you're swimming that a little bit longer, and your mind might break down as well. So the swimmers stretch out by this point. So you may well, if you're not swimming with friends, you may find that you're swimming on your own for certain sections of the swim, overtaking people, being overtaken. So just don't let any of that daunt you, and just get on with your own swim. That's the most important thing I can say for those longer sections. The final part of that section gets you near some busier moored boats, etc. So that's when you know that that finish is coming up. And I say all this is from memory as well. So forgive me, Juliet, if I'm talking in wrong sections. But then you get to the final stretch. To me, that's the longest part of the race. It's the longest part in feel to it, because if you've not done it before, you don't know where that end is. You know, every corner you come around, your head's saying, please let this be the end. And yeah, you've got another chunk of swim to go. And again, your swimmers are stretched out and you'll find you're overtaking people and people are overtaking you. But that's the time that I always think to myself to enjoy that part, because it's nearly over and the finish is an amazing experience as you come in with lots of people there cheering you on. So yeah, really enjoy that part, and you know, just relish in the fact that you're nearly there and you've nearly swam 14k. So you know, that's the main part of your achievement why you're doing this. So that's the sections of the swim itself. I'll touch on a little bit about feeding, because I found this quite important on there. And again, this might be different. We don't know what's going to happen by, well, next week, let alone August. So this may be different for the event. But Henley Swim have always provided some amazing feeding stations. So at each stop, there's a feeding section and they will provide you with some tasty treats. But don't overindulge. I learned that once. And swimming with a heavy stomach on the last 2 kilometers is not the best, even if the most tasty thing that they presented to me was eaten in quite a lot of abundance. So use the Henley feed stops, but use them sort of sparingly. Only think of your food on that day for fueling your swim. You never want to become depleted in that, you know, in your fueling or your hydration. So always keep topped up. So don't miss a feed. There's another way that I use feeding as well on those. When I was training for my longer swim, I actually used it as a test. So if you've not done a longer swim before, feeding is a vital part of anything, in my opinion, over 5k. You can swim 5k and get through it without a feed. Anything sort of a 10k swim, you want to say, not become depleted in your nutrition and just keep that topped up as you're going. So feeding becomes quite important. And it's a little bit different. You want to find drinks, supplements and foods that work for you during the swim, because everybody is different. So I used Henley as a little bit of a test for that when I was doing my Windermere swim. I had my own food that I thought I was going to be using for the swim, so I could fine tune it and tweak it. And I actually found that some of the Henley food that was on offer was better than the stuff I was doing. And my favorite little memory from this is finding the sort of oat bar and dairy milk mix, which was amazing. And I use that in my Windermere swim, and that was just amazing. And it was much better than the stuff I originally planned. So go in with an open mind and just think about that stuff with your feeding plan for your bigger swims, and enjoy it where you can with the Henley provided stuff if it's just going down there for your normal swim. Big tip, even pre-COVID, I always used to carry a little bottle of hand sanitizer. I'm looking around because I thought I had it on my desk, but I haven't. When you get out to feed, just sanitize your hands. It just cuts down on the risk of any illness, etc. on there. So I'll leave you with feeding with my experience of when I was very naive and did my first 10-kilometer marathon swim. I actually missed a feed. So this is why it's always important when I'm coaching swimmers to think about their feeding plan. I was doing a 10k swim, it was at Eton Dorney, and I was a little bit overexcited because it's my first one. I always blame my wife because she was waving at me and getting me to take a picture, and I swam past my bottle on the side of my feed, and I actually missed a feed. And that next big lap was the worst experience of my swim, because I was absolutely depleted of energy. I just slowed down and down, and it got worse. And I could never, on the next feed stop, yep, I haven't had a feed, but I could never bring that level back up. And that kind of spoiled my 10K swim time that I was aiming for. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. Don't become depleted on those feeding stations. And importantly, the river and all of the countryside is there for all our enjoyment. So please be tidy. Yeah, use the bins provided, and put your bottles in there, recycle, do whatever is provided by Henley to be as tidy as possible, because we don't want to give that event a bad name, because it's got a really, really good reputation. Pre-swim, I'll just go through pre-swim and post-swim very, very quickly, because I know I've waffled on a little bit. When you with your pre-swim, pack what you need only for before and after the swim. Don't go with a wheelie bag and suitcase full of stuff, which I've actually seen once. I think, I'm hoping they weren't a swimmer, but they took basically the kitchen sink. So pack what you need, because you're going to have a little walk from the car park to the start line as well. Make a checklist. Biggest thing, checklist of all of the kit that you're going to need and want for that swim. The last thing you want to do is get to the event start and found you've left your goggles, your toe float, or your wetsuit in your boot. Because I say you do get a little bit of a walk, so you have to go back and get that, and that's not the greatest start. You want to relax for the whole day. So on that note, arrive in good time, just in case anything does go wrong. The guys there all of the time, I've done it, will get you checked in, and answer any questions you have. But if you arrive in good time, it just eases everything up for you and for them, so you can enjoy the start event. And around 15, keep an eye on the clock, around 15 minutes before the start, go and have a look at the start as well, get accustomed to that, and do a little bit of a warm up about 15 minutes before the start. Okay, so just get everything lubricated up, ready for your swim, get to know the environment, get to know where you're going to get in, and just enjoy that morning before you get into the swim. Post swim, again, I don't know if things will be different because of COVID, but this is a time where you can feed, get hydrated, and relax and enjoy the atmosphere. So you've done a 14K swim. Henley always make that a really nice sort of family feel at the end with spectators and things. So if you can, what we always trying to do with our team when we went down there is stand by the exit and cheer on the other swimmers that are coming in. We did that wherever possible, and we had some really great feedback, even from people I didn't know who mailed me and said, thank you for your guys cheering me on. It made the end of the event really special. In the days after, everybody is different. Take some time off your training, get back in when you feel right. My biggest tip is pre-book your physio or massage, because you might need it after swimming that long, and just listen to your own body. Say some people will get in the water again the next day and start swimming. I personally always like to take 3 or 4 days off and then start with some sort of easy swim and technique work. So that's my experience of a swim, and just using a little bit of others' experience as well that we've coached. But yeah, it's a really special event. You train for it slightly differently, or you can train for it slightly differently, and I'll talk about that towards the end. So hope that's been okay.
Thank you very much, Jason. So I'll now hand you over to Juliet, who's from one of the event organisers for Henley Swim, the event itself. So Juliet's ready to go.
Hi everyone, just to give myself a little introduction, I'm Juliet Hume. I'm the Director of Operations for Henley Swim. So I look after the 4 events that we run in the summer. So in addition to the Thames Marathon, we have 3 others all on this area of the Thames. And also this year, virtual events that we've started doing. I don't know if any of you have seen our Brass Monkeys or our Swim Go Bingo challenges that are currently going on, but that's me. I oversee all of that. With regard to the Thames Marathon, obviously no discussion at the moment will be complete without a COVID part to it. So if I cover that off first, because it tends to impact on some of the other stuff that I'll talk about. So obviously we don't really know what situation we're going to be in August. If the government roadmap goes according to plan, we'll be completely free and allowed to do whatever we want. However, I don't think that people will be completely comfortable hugging strangers, for example. So we are continuing to plan with COVID contingencies, COVID secure plans that we have to put in anyway. And I suspect that some elements of them will continue, even, as I say, if we've got complete all clear and things are back to normal. So particularly things around the start, the feeding, they're the areas that at the moment we can't sort of say with 100% certainty exactly how they'll be, but just as a reassurance to all you guys, really, we are still taking it seriously, and it's not just going to be, well, that's done, we'll get back to normal. Because as Jason's alluded to, there are moments in the race where people are close together. Just as a quick reassurance as well, last year we did manage to put on an event at the end of August. It wasn't the Thames Marathon, one of our other events, and that was at the height of COVID restrictions. So we have experience in it. We were successful in keeping everyone safe and making them feel safe. So COVID is covered. I was going to talk about tow floats as well. Just again, tow floats compulsory for this event. There's a range of tow floats out there. They range from literally an airbag to a dry bag. And if you haven't got one yet, it's probably worth getting one that you can at least put some items in. We transport your bag from the start to the finish. But if there's other stuff you want to take with you, and Jason's obviously talked about food, but also, you might want to take flip-flops. There's walks across the lock. They're not very long. They're pretty smooth. But if you're particularly sensitive and your feet are sensitive after they've been in the water that long, you can tie flip-flops to your tow float, or you can use it, for your food or anything else you might have, medicines or inhalers or anything that people might need to take with them. So the tow float is compulsory for the event in some form, and probably worth having one that's got a bit of a bag in it of some sort, or the donuts as well. You'll be sent an information pack sort of 4 to 6 weeks before the event, which should cover any questions that you've got. It gives all the directions of parking. Obviously by that stage our COVID plan will be completely in place, and we'll know exactly the things that I'm not able to give with 100% certainty today, we'll know by then. So 4 to 6 weeks before, you'll get an information pack, read it through as soon as you get it, and then read it a couple of weeks later, and then read it before the event. Because if you leave it till the night before, then there's stuff that you may miss in there that is important. So although it seems like a long way away, I would really recommend reading it, not just waiting till the night before and thinking, what do I need? Because it's got a lot of useful information in it as well. On the weekend of the event, so the swim's on the Sunday, registration, we have registration open on a Saturday afternoon as well. If you're local or you're staying locally, a lot of people will like to come and pick up their race pack on the Saturday. It gives a bit of a chance to look at the river, not feeling like you're in a rush. So if you're able to do it, definitely come on the Saturday. Obviously that's not possible for people who are coming from a little further away, but you'll get to meet the team, you'll get to meet other swimmers, and it might make you more nervous, but also it might calm some elements. It's just getting into the excitement of the event, really. And then your race pack, so if you haven't picked up on the Saturday, you'll come on the Sunday, and we recommend coming sort of an hour to an hour and a half before your start time, just to give yourself a chance to find your bearings and pick your race pack up. You'll have a timing. It's basically a hat, a coloured hat, which will denote your wave or start time. So if your hat's yellow, you'll go off with people with yellow hats. It's just a way we can organise hundreds of swimmers to leave at the right sort of time. And then your timing chip, which will be on your ankle for this event. You'll have a Velcro strap and it goes around your ankle, and that's because all the timing is done on floor timing mats. So you walk across mats to enter the water. Each time you get out a lock and get back in again. So obviously it's our safety to know that you're where you are in and out of the water, and it's also your time. So at the end you'll have your time. It's your total time. We don't stop the timing for your feeds. So if you're really worried about your time, then you'll want to do your feeds quickly if that's what you're aiming for. If you're just in it to have a nice day and really not worried about your time, then yeah, to take more leisure at the feeding time. But the time we give you at the end will be a total time, not a swim time. You'll have so you've picked up your race pack. There's changing rooms, there's toilets, there's people milling around, lots of chatting. There'll be a safety briefing. Now, this is one of the uncertainties for COVID. It might be that we send a safety briefing out by video in advance in its main form, and have a light briefing on the day, just to avoid people gathering together. That's something that we'll know, but we might do both. It's having it in advance, I think, is quite a good thing anyway. So that will be clearer nearer the time. But then you'll have your briefing. Jason's covered the start really. We have the last couple of years we've had a pulsing start, where we have, rather than big waves going off at great intervals, we've had small waves going off at like 5-minute intervals. People into the water and off, so it's possibly a bit less washing machine-y, but still, yeah, everything that Jason said, very valid. And yeah, it is still busy even with the pulse. The sections of the swim, your memory was almost right, Jason. 2 and 3 were the other way around. So it goes 4K, 6K, 2K, 2K. So the 6K is, so the 6K is your second stage. So that's the long one. See that Brian's put the map up. This is actually the walking map, but it gives a really good idea of the stages. So the pink arrows are the beginning and end of the first stage up to Hambledon Lock, which is at the top there. And then, so that's the 4K stage. And then the blue is the 6K stage, which takes you to Hurley. Just on this one, your spectators, you can see by the first blue arrow, the white line, which is actually the walking route, comes inland away from the river. There's a section there where your spectators aren't alongside the swimmers. So all the rest of the swim, they can see the spectators are right alongside the river, but there's that section there. So at the start of the 6K swim, that your spectators are just pushed away from the river a bit, and then they come back in. And then, do you want to put the second picture on? Yeah. And then, so the green section is the third. So that's from Hurley Lock to Temple Lock. That's the 2K, and then the last one coming into Marlow, 2K from Temple Lock to Marlow to the bridge. And just when Jason was talking, I was just thinking about that, seeing that end. What you're looking for is Marlow Bridge. When you can see that, it's still a long way away, but you can see it, and you know that that's basically where the end is. Don't think that you can see it and you're nearly there, because you can see it for quite a distance before, but it gives you some perspective and a marker of where the end is. I've written down food here, but I think Jason has covered off everything to do with that. We have bananas, chocolate, like mini cheddars, salty things, sweet things. We have electrolyte drinks available. COVID, it'll be interesting to see what we do there. And again, if you're very nervous about COVID, then bring your own food. I would say, we do have hand sanitizer as you come in. We put all the food in individual pots, but we haven't had to do this event yet with COVID in the background. So yeah, I'd say if it's something that worries you, bring your own food. But otherwise, we'll do everything we can to make sure things are in individual packets or individual pots. Hand sanitize, wipe down. The volunteers all wear gloves. So the hygiene has always been important. And then we've got that covered over the years, but obviously this year there's an added layer, which we will find a way of dealing with. Safety, I was going to talk a little bit about safety boats. So we've got an amazing team who are really experienced open water swim event safety kayakers. They do all sorts of events over the country. they're fantastic. They're the feedback we get every year is that the water team are brilliant, that they're really supportive, they're encouraging, they'll answer your questions if you've got questions. If you want to, sort of, if you're tired and you're having a rest on your tow float and there's a kayaker there, and they'll chat, or they'll, if they're worried about someone, they'll swim alongside them for a while. So they are brilliant. You should never be any distance away really from a kayaker. Again, as Jason said, that there are a couple of islands and things. It's not all just completely smooth, but they keep everyone on course. The side of the river you're on also changes as you go down the course, but they're, that's what they're there for, to look after your safety and to make sure that you're on the right course. So to sort of have a chat with them. They're great. They're not just there for an emergency. They're having a nice day on the river too. So then when you get to the finish, Higginson Park in Marlow, we build scaffolding steps to come out the water. Obviously you're tired, you've been horizontal for a little bit. We have people helping you out, but you do need to just be a little careful as you come out the water. And then when you come through, you get your medal, you have your photograph taken. There's more food and drink available for you. There's probably, COVID allowing, there will be a 10-minute massage team there who will be able to get straight to you if that's what you need. And just a great atmosphere, food and drink. It's in the park. There's lots of the public in the park at the weekend anyway as well, for who are all completely surprised to see hundreds of wetsuit clad swimmers coming out of the water. But there's always a lot of people spectating, stopping to look around. So that's the finish. Just other things I've written down are wetsuits are compulsory unless you have a non-wetsuit place. Now, SwimTayka still have a couple of non-wetsuit places available. Non-wetsuit places are sold out for everybody else. So if you are thinking of doing it, you're a non-wetsuit swimmer, we would have to, you need to have experience. You can't come and do a non-wetsuit 14K without any experience of a long distance swim or some non-wetsuit shorter swims. So we ask you to tell us about your experience, and we sort of have a look and approve your application basically. But as I say, the SwimTayka places are now money can't buy, because the non-wetsuit places are sold out. We restrict the number just as a safety. It's just part of our safety plan, really, is the reason that the number's restricted, because there is greater potential for those swimmers to get cold, or they obviously haven't got the buoyancy that the wetsuits are giving them, so they're likely to get tired more easily. And so it's just part of our safety planning. Temperature, we reckon normally between about 18 and 20 degrees at that time of year, 17, 20, something like that. So it's it's pleasant, definitely pleasant, and in a wetsuit. And obviously if you've done the training and acclimatization, then it should be fine. I think that's everything I've got. I've talked about supporters already. I think that's the majority of what I've got to say about the sort of structure. Oh, your bags. I haven't really talked about your bags. So your bags will be brought, from the start to the finish. And as soon as you get out of the water, you can go straight to the bag drop tent and pick up your bag. And there's again changing in toilets at the finish as well, and the coach. So we then will coach you back to Henley at the end. So when you've sourced yourself out, had something to eat and drink, there's basically shuttle coaches running back to the car park in Henley for most of the day, so you can just jump on that. And spectators are also welcome on the coaches. There is a charge for spectators on those coaches, which they there's another COVID question, which normally they pay on the day in cash, but we'll that will be in the information pack. But for swimmers, the coach is part of your swim, so we return you back to the car park in Henley, and let you get on with the rest of your day. So I think that's it from me.
Thank you very much, Juliet. We have one question from Tony asking if the route was shortened in any way, what would actually happen and what would take place.
Okay, so just to put some background to that, for those of you that don't know, Henley Regatta has moved its dates this year to our date, essentially, but they're very much in their planning stage, and there's not really there's no detail yet of what scale Henley Regatta will take place. So we are contingency planning around either Henley being big like it normally is, or it just being a rowing race with no spectators and no hospitality and partying, and we will have to adapt accordingly. And one of the things we've said is that in the worst case scenario, we might have to shorten the course. We think what we'll do then is we will keep all the base in Marlow, and we will probably bus the swimmers to the 10K point. So they'll have the bus at the beginning of their swim rather than the end. And we'll bus that. So the parking in the event area will be in Marlow. We'll bus them to the 10K start. They'll swim back to Marlow, and then they'll be, you know, in the event area. That is the plan at this stage, but as I say, nothing. there's not just the COVID contingency. There's the Henley Regatta contingencies as well. So these are the ideas. Obviously, we want it to be a 14K, and in an ideal world, it will be. But Henley Regatta has enormous clout, and there's nothing that we can do to compete against that. So we're working with them and the Environment Agency to try and, you know, make it so that it's good for everyone. But until they've fully made up their mind what they're doing, we're just waiting to see. So I hope that answers the question.
It does, yes. I hope that all goes okay. A few other questions. Are sleeveless wetsuits acceptable to wear?
Yes, sleeveless sweatsuits are fine. They need to be below the knee. So shorties are not good, but as long as they're below the knee, the sleeves is fine. That's the rule.
We've got one final question from Sarah saying, is there a cut-off time?
Is there a cut-off time? Yes, there is a cut-off time. It's 6.5 hours. One of the things I think we will do this year is extend that a little bit, because obviously there is this issue of people not having had as much training as they may have done in previous years. So we've always, I mean, if I'm completely honest, we've had a cut-off point and we've never actually hoiked anyone out of the water because we've reached the cut-off point. If they've swum 12 kilometers, unless it was a safety issue, we're not going to say, no, you can't finish, unless, you know, they're really struggling. Or so yes, the cutoff is 6.5, which we reserve the right, I think was probably how we put it. In reality, we don't very often put that into practice, or we've never put that into practice. And yeah, this year I think we will officially extend it, just to give a bit of confidence to those people who are worried that they'll be slower than they normally would be, to, you know, to not make them feel that they're going to get hoiked out.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. If anybody else has any other questions, then please put it in the Q&A section or the chat section, and we can pick it up a little bit later. But thank you very much, Juliet. Very useful information, and there's a lot of information I didn't know about the event, so it's well worth finding out. And like Juliet says, that there is, I think, one place, possibly two places left on the SwimTayka team for any people that want to do non-wetsuits, which are premium spaces. And they can go to the website, and again, we'll put the link up again if anybody is interested in the non-wetsuit place. So thank you very much. So I'll now just talk a little bit about SwimTayka, because that's who's hosting this event itself. So SwimTayka was formed about 4 years ago. It's a charity to teach young children around the world in low resource areas. They have programs in Peru, Brazil, Mozambique, Indonesia, and reaching out to more countries for next year after COVID. We basically provide free swimming lessons and an environmental education around clean water stewardship to all the underprivileged children. And the important thing is free for them. We set up a 5-year program in all the different locations. We've worked with other NGOs and charities who are already established in those locations, and we essentially give the children free lessons. We get qualified swimming instructors. We send them to those locations to start up the program. with the intention after 5 years that it will be self-sufficient. The schools will be involved. There will be the local government, and we try our hardest to work with regards to doing it. So all our events with regards to fundraising are swimming based. So we've got Thames Marathon, we've got Lake 32 long distance swims, and we also do English Channel relays as well. So we get involved as much as possible, anything to do related around swimming and the water, because we believe if the water's clean, people are going to want to swim in it and do everything they need to be able to do. So that's a little bit about SwimTayka. I don't want to ramble on too much. What I'd also like to do is pass you over to Jonathan and let him, with regards to talk just a quick précis with regards to outdoor swimmer and his experiences and such like. So, so Jonathan, over to yourself.
Hello. No, okay, there's Outdoor Swimmer website. Yeah, so I'm Jonathan. I'm the editor of Outdoor Swimmer magazine. I've also done the Thames Marathon 3 times, which is, I don't usually do events more than once, so that's testament to how amazing it is. But no, it really is. So yeah, the first year, so I've done it 3 times. The first year I did it was before I worked for Outdoor Swimmer, and I trained really hard for it, and I really raced it. And then the second year I did it was about 4 years ago, I think. And again, trained very hard for it. And then the last time I did it was in 2019, where I didn't train quite so hard for it. And it was a slightly more difficult experience. But so the first 2 years I did it in a wetsuit. The last year I did it skins. So I'm not sure whether anyone has signed up to do a skin swim, but I thought I'd just give a few little kind of tips for if you're going to do it skins. Obviously, there's a couple of spaces left, so if you're tempted, there's still plenty of time to kind of acclimatise and get trained up for it. So yeah, so I thought a few little tips if you're going to do it without a wetsuit. It's a bit of a different proposition than doing it in neoprene. So I guess the first thing is obviously you need to be acclimatized. So make sure some of your training is done outside, maybe have some cold showers, that kind of thing. Yeah, and probably get some shorter races in before you do the Thames Marathon. So when I did the marathon in 2019, I did a Jubilee swim, which is a 10K swim beforehand. So I think the Thames Marathon was like 19 degrees when I did it, and the Jubilee was 16. So having done 10K in 16, I was like, oh, that's going to be cool. I'd be quite happy to do 14 in 19, 20. Obviously, if you're not in a wetsuit, there's a danger that when you get out of the feed stations, you're going to get a bit cold. So probably kind of get through the feed stations quite quickly if the weather's a bit cool. Feed stations, actually the feed stations are one of the great things I love about the swim. So that it's such a social swim. So you get out, you can have a bit of a chat. The volunteers who work on the food tables, etc., they're all really great, all really friendly. If you're a skin swimmer, you get treated like a star. So because everyone's so worried that you're going to get cold. So when you get out of the water, you kind of sweat through. You're offered hot drinks. So take advantage of all that. Yeah, keep yourself warm. It always feels a bit cool when you get back in the water. So once you get back in the water, get going, don't hang around. And then obviously when you get to the end, don't hang around and get cold when you get out. Make sure you get your kit quickly, get warmed up. But yeah, it's a great event. You're all going to love it. You've got plenty of time to train. So you've got, where are we now, 4 months? Yeah, so Jason's going to go through the training sessions that you can do. Plenty of time to train, plenty of time to acclimatise. Yeah, it's going to be a good swim. I may come down and do it for a 4th time. You never know. So you might see me there too. But yeah, and just a little bit about Outdoor Swimmer magazine. So we're a monthly magazine about outdoor swimming, the only magazine about outdoor swimming. So if you love outdoor swimming, and obviously you do because you're about to do the Thames Marathon, you really should sign up. This is the, oh, look at that. You can't see it. That was the latest issue. And yeah, so if you're interested in subscribing, we'll do like a follow-up email after this call for everyone, and we can put like a special subscription offer in there. So if you want to sign up, you can get some kind of special deal. We might give you a special gift if you're lucky. But yeah, I think that's probably enough from me. We don't want to hang around on your Sunday morning. But yeah, just enjoy it. You're gonna have it's a great swim. You're gonna love it.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Are you planning to do a skins place potentially in the Thames Marathon? Because I know SwimTayka has some places going. If you'd like to take any of those.
Well, I mean, this is the problem that I have been. So I didn't have probably haven't been swimming as much. I haven't had a hot shower for 4 months now. So that's been my kind of acclimatization plan, to keep acclimatized, is not have hot showers. So I'm kind of acclimatized, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
So it sounds like you possibly might want to do it then.
Yeah, I could be tempted. I could be tempted.
Good. We'll look forward to it. Hopefully you'll sign up. If not yourself, then somebody else might beat you to it. So
yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Jonathan. Next, I'd like to try and introduce you to Joe, who's from Lake 32. So I just asked Joe to unmute herself and come online if she can.
Right, I'm online now. Yep. Okay. Hi there. Okay.
Joe.
So, okay. So the Thames Marathon was the first ever swim in distance for me. I'd only been introduced to swimming in open water about the previous sort of 2 or 3 years, and done swimming quite a lot beforehand in pools. And I managed 750 meters with the help of Jason. Jason had been doing lots of training with me, and I managed that. And I thought this would be a great challenge. So entered, and then got the information, and then started training. So the training was very important to get that distance in. And luckily at my lake, we had a 1.5k course laid out. So once I started doing 750 meters quite happily, I started to extend the swims, and we worked with Jason to get some distance in, and also doing the feeding stations where you mentioned before about getting out of the water and getting in the water. That was really an important part, because the feeling you got when you got out of the water and standing up and then thinking, oh, right, go and eat. Okay, now go and get back in the water and start swimming again after you've eaten. That was quite interesting. So getting that side of it under my belt was an interesting sort of side of things to swim the distance as well. So the eating, the nutrition, the psychological, the mental side of it was just unbelievable. Just swimming that kind of distance on your own, getting a rhythm, getting into, I mean, luckily I was sort of into a bit of meditation. So swimming was a sort of meditation bit for me, so that you just got into a rhythm. And now I'm not the world's fastest swimmer. I'm the one that completes it. I get to the end. And my aim on this Thames Marathon was to get to the end. So all the training there was to just keep going and keep working at it. And I did it in a wetsuit. I did it with a toe float, which again was an unusual thing. I've never worn a toe float properly before. So all these little things into the mix as a learning open water swimming, doing open water swimming, then doing the wetsuit, then doing a toe float, then doing the distance, then eating, then getting out, then getting back in, was quite enlightening. But on the day itself, got to the event, got to there with all these sort of other swimmers that we were going with Southwest Swim, and we all met up, and it was all very relaxed and very easy, and everyone was very supportive. And the Thames Marathon people were very supportive as well. So got in the water and started. And literally those first two, the first section went very quickly. I do remember that section went very quickly. The second section I just got into the rhythm of, and that was fine. But great, now there's two short pieces. Great, getting in, getting out. And I do remember the sort of 2K section, the first one. I got out, and one of your marshals was saying to me, "You okay? You okay?" I said, "Yep, I just want to finish. Am I okay to finish?" and fed myself, got back in, and that last 2K was the longest 2K ever. I have never had a 2K so long. And eventually got round and saw the last boy to turn left, I think it was, to get to the steps, and everyone was cheering there. I was the last one in. I think it was 6 hours and 5 minutes was my time. Got out, and the team and my whole group were there, and it was just fantastic. Just actually completing it in one piece and feeling very good was my main thing. And I'm never a sort of speed person. I'm never there on anything I've done, whether marathons, half marathons or swims. It's always to complete. So for me, the overriding thing as well was the support team. I do remember a kayak safety chap was there, and every time I was swimming, every sort of breath I was taking, there was this sort of nice waft of aftershave going on. So it was really great that I thought, yep, it's still there. Someone's still there for me. That's fine. And I felt very secure and very safe in the whole event. And getting out at the end, my overriding thing was to have some cheese and milk. That was it. And I'm not quite sure why, sort of the protein, the milk, something like that in my whole body after eating all the things I was eating. That's what I just had to get down my throat, was some cheese and some milk. And afterwards, I felt so elated, it was just such an achievement. And there was an element of meditation, there was an element of just sticking in and keep swimming. And literally, I was just doing 1, 2, 3 stroke. I can do this, I am strong, all the way through the swim. So it's a very good swim. It's a very nice and well supported swim. So I really liked it. And it was something where the training definitely comes into play. I trained up to, I got up to about 8K in one stretch. So that was setting me in good stead for doing the 14K. But that getting out of the water and getting back in is really the overriding thing for me, is to learn once you're doing one of these swims where you've got feed stations. So yeah, I loved it, loved the whole experience.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Joe. And like you say, is the swim's not really a race. It's endurance. So take your time, go slowly. You will meditate when you're swimming, like you say. I'm a long distance swimmer as well, and you're absolutely right. It's the fact that if you can get to a meditative state and just keep going slowly and surely at the pace that you're used to when you're training, you will get to the end. So thank you very much, Joe. So going from Joe, we've now got Andy, who's going to talk. He's a bit more of a medium swimmer, I'd say, from what I've heard.
Hello. Oh, am I?
You're on there. You're on there, Andy. Yep, it's all you.
Yeah, thanks. I did the Henley Marathon twice in 2018 and 2019, and I had a great experience. I enjoyed both swims. I did. The first thing I thought, then I was a little bit nervous of swimming for 14K because I've only ever swum 5K in one go. Did a couple of those swimathons in the pool. So my distance I wasn't sure about, but I was intrigued to see what I would feel like after 14K. So in a sort of masochistic way, I thought, let's see what it feels like after swimming 14. I did a lot of swimming in the pool based stuff with Jason and at the public sessions, and I also swam in the lake at Lake 32 when Joe had the long loops. I was doing several long loops to get that sort of 5K distance in. So I was in the wetsuit when I did those swims, and yeah, I just thought, was 5K enough? But for me, because I thought, well, it's a broken swim, really. You've got your sections where you've got to get out for the locks, and then you've got to wait to swim across to an island, and then you get out onto an island. It's not a full straight out 14K stretch. So I thought, yeah, I should be okay. And to be fair, I was very happy with the performance I did. I just enjoyed it. During the swim, I wasn't bored, or that monotony didn't set in, because it's a lovely river to swim in. As Jason said earlier, you can see to the bottom of the river. There's stuff to look at. There's people to see on the side when they're walking along. Some people that were swimming had their friends and relations, family walking along the riverside, so you could see people walking, cycling. I didn't get any smells of perfume or aftershave. I smelled a bit of diesel now and again from boats, but apart from that, no, I had a fantastic time. I got there early, 5 o'clock in the morning. I think I got there. I think I was just about opening the car park when I arrived. So I got there very early, made sure I had all my stuff with me, because I did not want to forget anything. Because as Jason said earlier, it's a bit of a trek back from the car park if you've forgotten anything. So it's really important to remember to bring everything with you. Foolishly, on the first swim I did at that marathon, I didn't look at which way they were going down the river. So when it was my turn, my wave to go in, I didn't know whether I was going left or right, because there wasn't really much of a current. So that really didn't give me a clue as to which direction I was going to swim. So I just sort of went in the middle of the pack. And then I realised, it was when the starters' orders went, then I realised which way we were swimming. But I stupidly didn't look at some of the waves that went off earlier to see which way they went down the river. So the following year, I obviously knew, because I've done it. But race prep, for me, I just did quite a lot of 5K distance swimming in the pool. And I had a lot of training with Jason, with his swim squads, with what we call that CSS, that critical swim speed swim training, which is a must for that sort of distance, with a tempo trainer, which you could put under your swim cap. That was very, very important. So you got your idea of your cruise sort of pace. And then when you're in the swim, you just sort of get into a rhythm, a comfortable rhythm. It's not a race as such, because you're only competing against yourself. You just want to finish that 14K. The time wasn't really important. It was just to be able to finish it. And I got out to the feed stations. Food wise, I tended to eat what I had in my tow float. I had room in the tow float for those sachets, those gels. So I took quite a few gels with me, and drink. And every time the food stations came up, I was drinking the fluids that they gave you. And it was, I think, one of the last stations, I actually ate some banana. They were cutting up bits of small pieces of banana for you. So I had some banana. So food-wise, it was mainly gels and a bit of banana and some porridge before I set out to travel there, because I had about a 2-hour drive to get to the swim. So I had a brilliant time. And so I did it the following year. So I did it in 2018, 2019, both with wetsuits. Training wise, like I say, 5K swims, that's the most I ever did really in any one go. But for me, that was all right, because as I said, it was treat it as a broken swim. You get a chance to recover at the food stations if you want to recover, or you can sort of run through it and get back in the water and do as quick a time as you want. You've got various options, but for me, it was just to finish it and see how I felt after 14K. Say it's a very attractive river, lots to look at. The last bit I enjoyed, because you knew it was the last section, and you just went as fast as you could with whatever was left in you, because you wanted to then think, well, that's it now, I'm on the homeward straight. Got out, I booked into a massage. That was very important. My shoulders were quite tight, and legs were a bit cramping a bit. So the massage at the tents in the end was good for me. And then the whole organisation was excellent. The bus, the coach home, the coach back to the start was fine. So no, I couldn't fault the event at all. and the weather was great that year, the 2018. I think we had very dry, hot weather, and the whole thing was excellent. So yeah, and the training, like I say, luckily for me, I've got Lake 32 up the road, which I can train in, and those 1500 meter loops are really good because you've got a sense of being out in the wilderness in a sense when there's such long loops, and that helped me appreciate what it might be like in the river in the Thames. So that's it really. I think that's as much as I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy, for your experiences. It's like you say, it is a long event to be able to do it. It is a marathon at the end of the day, and it's a big achievement for both you and Joe with regards to completing it. So congratulations on both of you for doing it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do, it's getting on towards, what's the time? 11 o'clock, it's just past 11 o'clock. So I just want to switch over the Q&A and the training plan side. I'll bring Juliet and Jason into the picture. So there's a question from Bridget asking with regards in relation to feeding. Is it okay to bring your drink bottle attached to your toe floats when you're doing it?
I personally wouldn't. If you mean that drink bottle being in the river, I personally wouldn't do that, because there's a chance that you might get some river water in there, and that's the last thing you're going to need. Juliet touched on types of toe float. I forgot to mention this in my feeding, but I used a toe donut, and you can put your drinks and your food. We had one swimmer once train for, I think she was training for Henley, that actually was feeding off sandwiches, and she actually had sandwiches. I got a video somewhere, and we did a training session and we practiced our feeding from our toe donuts, and she brought out this jam sandwich and started eating it. So you can put all sorts in those, but yeah, I would recommend putting your feeds in a toe donut, not a dry bag. The reason being, a toe donut is quite easy to get stuff in and out whilst you're in the water. A dry bag is really meant for point-to-point swim, so you can't really get the stuff out. So that's my answer to that. No to dragging your bottle across in the river, because you don't want that to leak and get water in it, and or lose it for a start. But yes to a toe donut, and put all your stuff in there, because it'll be mainly sealed away from the water.
I think, and also the other thing about a toe donut is you can have your phone in it. So at the moment, our timing chips are just timing chips; they're not tracking. But if you've got a phone and you want your friends to work out where you are and can use Find My Friends or some tracking app, then that's brilliant as well. So if they're coming halfway through your swim, they can work out where you are and find you. So
that's actually
I would say if you are planning to put your phone inside a tote bag, make sure it's wrapped and water sealed in a small bag inside there, because if your tow float does happen to leak, which it has done on my many occasions, you'll ruin your phone if it's not a waterproof phone. So this is worth doing that as well. So thank you very much for that answer to that one. We've got some more questions with regards to, will the river be closed to motorised traffic during the event?
No, that's the safety team's job that we've talked about. The kayakers, they keep the boat traffic separate from the swimmers. All the we work with the Environment Agency, so all the lock keepers along the way, any of the big marinas are all aware of the event. They communicate out to boat users. So every time, in theory, every time a boat goes through a lock, the lock keeper will remind them that there are swimmers on that stretch and tell them where they'll be. And the kayakers will be between the motorised boats and the swimmers, but the river is not closed at all for this. No, not any section of it. Has to be fully operational.
Okay, it's worth knowing. So that could be where the diesel smell comes from as well, as boats go past.
Yeah, yes, there are boats going past. There definitely, but we're always.
Hopefully they'll wave to you.
Yeah.
They go past. So.
That experience is a good point as well. That experience of a boat going past you, you'll hear a rumbling noise. So don't be alarmed by that if it's your first time in the Thames. You'll hear a rumbling noise. Some boats you won't actually see go past you if you're only breathing to one side, for example, and then suddenly you'll end up in a lot of swell and chop. But there's good distance between you and the boats. You don't need to worry about that. As Juliet said, the safety cover is one of the best in this event because they have to be on point and all the time. So yeah, you'll hear the rumbling of the boats, you'll feel the chop. So don't be alarmed by that.
Brilliant. We have a question from Judy in regards to, because there's a slight current in the River Thames, roughly how much shorter, and if people are training in lakes where there's no current, how would you see with regards to the difference in timings and distance, I suppose?
It's a really interesting and much debated point. So obviously it will depend a lot on the flow, which will depend on the weather, the rainfall in the several weeks running up to the event all makes a difference as to how fast the river's flowing and how the locks are being managed as well. That, you know, that makes a difference too. So the stream weather dependent, I don't know, it's probably worth asking some of the guys who've done it. Some people anecdotally I've seen talking on Facebook, they say it feels more like 10 or 11k, that it gives knocks a couple of kilometers off. But again, I don't know specifically if they've swum in the faster years or the slower years. More recent years, people have said that they've hardly noticed that they haven't noticed the flow as they're swimming so much. But so yeah, it's very variable. I don't know what you guys, Johnny, I don't know how you found it. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, no, it makes. I think maybe the first year I did it was the fastest flow. I can't actually remember my times, but I do know, and obviously the year I did it skins, I would have been slower than my wetsuit time anyway. But I was a good hour slower that year than I had been the previous year I'd done it. So that could have just been because I was not so fit and not in a wetsuit, but. It definitely makes a difference. And I know one year it was very fast.
Yeah, there's been some very fast years. Yeah.
Like an Olympic pace.
Yeah, I think the spectators had a job that year keeping up with actually jogging along the towpath. It's not a gentle walk. But yeah, I'd definitely say it knocks a couple of kilometers off, even in the slowest years. And again, even if you can't actually feel it very much while you're swimming, it is still taking you along. Yeah, and also, sorry, I was going to say, there's different stretches of the river as well, depending, the curvy bits or the straight bits. You can feel the flow differently there.
And I think it is, like you say, very debatable, because I've commented online before saying about how good the flow was, and then you get people agreeing with you, and then a whole batch of people saying I didn't feel any flow this year. So I think if you've done the dart 10k, it's not a flow like that at all, because a dart 10k, I've had good swimmers that I've coached for a good sort of 4.5 hour 10k swimmer who've done the dart in about 3 hours. It's not like that. So it's not as fast as that.
Okay, we have one final question, which is from Sarah, which takes us nicely into the training plans on that side. So she's after with regards to tips relative to beginners in terms of training between now and August. So Jason, if you want to take over from here. Yeah,
sure. So I'll try and answer as many as I can on the training side of things. But if you do have any questions afterwards, then please feel free to send a message after the seminar's over. It's different this year. We have been out of the pools and the lakes for majority of us for a very long time. So normally around this time of year, people are starting to prepare. They're in the longer distances of the pool, and they're starting to prepare to go into the open water. So there's a couple of things to consider on where we are right at this moment in time. Even the most acclimatized winter swimmers won't be acclimatized. So that is well worth bearing in mind now. The lakes here are around 10, 11 degrees. I think Joe's Lake was 9 point something this morning again, because we had a really cold night. But that's worth bearing in mind, that you're not going to be able to get into the water and swim for long distances this time of year You know, I would say even if like you're the most acclimatized winter swimmer like Bryan, because you've lost that little bit of acclimatization. So there's two aspects I'll touch on. One is the open water side of things at this very moment in time. Lakes here are a bit warmer than elsewhere in the country. Say we're 10, 11, it got up to nearly 12 last week before we had bad weather again. But if you can, if your lakes are around that temperature, get in now and just use it as acclimatization. I coach an awful lot from May onwards. You know, we're in the water five hours a day potentially until September. And if you'd have seen me swim the other day, it was literally getting in with my wetsuit. And I literally spent 10 minutes just sculling and getting used to the water. No swimming went on in that session. I was literally just getting used to the water temperature and acclimatizing ready for the season. And everyone will feel the water a little bit differently. So you've got to err on the side of caution on there. So if you can get in the water in a safe environment and just get used to the water, don't feel you need to go off and swim a massive amount of time or a massive amount of distance, because that could be potentially dangerous, and it's not going to get you in the best shape if you start your season off, you know, getting pulled out of a lake or a river. So that's the open water side of things at the moment, and you will build that distance and time in as the water warms up, which thankfully in England, although it gets cold in the winter, the water temperature, certainly where we are in the Cotswolds, rises very quickly. I've known it to go from 11 degrees to 18 degrees in 7 days down here. So you know, don't rush it. You've got all the time you need on there. In terms of general swimming, we've got pools opening, hopefully where you are anyway, pools opening from tomorrow. What we've found in previous lockdowns is people lose basic skills of swimming. Not only the fitness, but their technique goes. And the biggest one is their balance in the water. So people will start crossing over, which is where, you know, your right arm ends up over the left side of your body. That's the biggest thing that we've noticed throughout all the lockdowns. So I would say, whatever level you are, get back in the water for the first 3 or 4 weeks, predominantly focus on your technique. Okay, there is time to build that, that distance up still. Like Jonathan said, we've got months to go, and your training plan may look slightly different, but you know, you want to get that foundation technique in now so you don't injure yourself, because you know, if you go off too quick, do too much, you run the potential risk of getting injured, and then that's your event over. As you know, you can't really swim 14K with dodgy shoulders. So build that foundation of acclimatization and technique as you go through there. Training plan wise, Henley Swim have a training plan, which is a 14-week training plan, which I think we worked out with Juliet was about enough time to the event. So that's on the Thames, the Henley Swim website under their training plan section. So there's one already written for you, and that mainly focuses on 3 sessions a week until you get to the later weeks, and I think it moves into a couple of longer distance open water swims. There's lots of 10K training plans out there as well, so you can use those and adapt them on there. I'm a Swim Smooth coach, and the Swim Smooth website has a training plan on there, which is very individualized and tailored as well. But that's a subscription service. So there's lots of options out there. So I'm not going to rewrite a whole session plan for you, but I'll give you some ideas of how to go about your training. So first thing I would do is find a local coach near you with a good reputation. If they can do one-to-ones or video analysis, book a session. Okay, it may seem a bit overkill, but it's probably the best start you're going to have, because they will give you direction into the skills you need to look at personally and not as a generic group. So you will have something to work on, which will make you faster through the water and less injury prone, less injury risk. So that's the first thing I would say is a highly recommended thing. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a coach. I am saying that because it's going to be the best start for your training after so much time out of the water. I've already said then focus 3 to 4 weeks primarily on your technique. So if you did see a coach, you'd then be able to work on what they are suggesting for you to work on. try and swim as often as possible, but don't overdo it straight away. So 3 to 5 times a week, that's what I would recommend. Swimming's a very technical sport, so the more you swim, the better you're going to be, and the more ingrained that is going to come into your stroke. But you want to kind of have a few session types. You don't want to be swimming the same thing all the time. So we would recommend, for example, a 3-session plan would be 1 technique session, 1 session where you're working on pacing, and that's the stuff Andy touched on, the critical swim speed, which is working on making you an evenly paced swimmer throughout the whole swim. And then an endurance swim, a longer based swim. That could be I'm going to go and swim for 45 minutes to start with non-stop, or you could break that down into sort of 10 400s or 10 500s and building that swim up there. And anything you can do on top of that, you get to learn your body and how it reacts to your training. As you go through, build those longer swims in. I've mentioned 3 to 5 times a week. How I would generally recommend for my swimmers who train in squads, so it would be the same if you train in a swimming club or tri club, etc. You can literally train for a long distance swim. I find it quite easy to train for long distance swim. You can do the training you're doing now or before COVID in your club sessions, and then every week just fit in that long endurance swim. Build from kind of a 3K swim up to 4K, and going through the event. So a question came in asking how long you should train for, as in with the flow, etc. I always recommend for any distance swim training up to 80% of the distance, and that's it. So for this one, I would class with the flow, I would class this as a sort of around about 10 or 11K swim. So if you can swim like Joe did, 8K, you're basically there. I know there's a big gap there between 8 and 14, but with the flow, etc., you can get past that. And like Andy, he only swam 5K. So everyone's individual. I would say base your plan off a 10K training program for that one as well. And say the flow is debatable. Follow your plan. So this is just a little bit of a warning. If you've got friends that are swimming a long event 2 months before you, a month before you, and they want to train with you, that's fine, but don't follow their schedule to the letter, because if they're swimming at the end of June and you're swimming in August, their distance plan is going to be a little bit different to yours. So you could end up actually getting in the water, swimming their distance for that session, and it's going to be too much too soon, and it's going to put your training back. So don't feel rushed. Follow your own plan, learn about your own body, how it reacts to training, how it reacts to rest, and how much rest you need on there. And my biggest tip, Joe touched on this one. So we swim in a lake down here in the Cotswolds. We've got the Thames that flows through, but most of us trained for this event in a lake. We Henley swim this training plan. So every month we did a longer swim, gradually increasing the distance. And what we were doing was swimming a couple of laps, so maybe 3K, getting out at a point, walking to our feed stop, feeding and getting back in. And then we may train a shorter, so maybe 1 lap and do exactly the same, and then 3 laps and do exactly the same. And then that's our training swim over. The difference between swimming, where you're like this, and walking, where you're upright, can throw quite a lot of people out. You might get dizzy, little bits and pieces like that. So try and, if you can, try and train for the event like you are swimming the event. Use the toe float. Practice jumping in off a jetty, holding the toe float, which you might need to do to get into some stretches of the river. Try and make it as real as possible. So swimming with a toe float, trying to jump in off a jetty or a bank with the toe float, making sure obviously the water depth is appropriate for when you do that. But holding the toe float, you're jumping in and then getting swimming again. It gives you that little bit of a cold water shock aspect of what you're doing, and also the buoyancy of the toe float, and that stand, walk, feed. So that's my best advice for the Henley swim, because that worked really well to prepare the swimmers to go there. And finally, why do I recommend only 80% of the distance? this comes down to a little bit of my old personal swims, well, you know, before I was coaching. If I signed up for a 10K swim, do I really want to swim 10K in training? Because then what's the point in swimming my event? I want that event to be special. I want it to be really good. I know that if I can hit 80% of my training plan, for training distance, I'm going to make that event. So that's my view of that. The final 20% is just going to be adrenaline fueled, and you can think of that as kind of the last 2K stretch that we've discussed. You know, where is the bridge? Where is the end? You will get through that swim, barring any injury. But if you've trained up to 80%, the injury risk is going to be a lot less, but you'll still get that really special feeling at the end of it. So that's how I would approach training. Just remember, everything's individual. Don't try and rewrite everything you know, that's out there. There's some really good training plans already out there, and some really good advice through there. But technique, acclimatization, build gradually, follow your own plans.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jason. Hopefully I'll be able to get everybody onto the window so we can see everybody. That conducts the end of our Swiminar. We've had during the actual talk, and also before the Swiminar, we had a few people donating to SwimTayka. So that's swimtayka.org/donate. I've put it in the chat window, so thank you to those people. There are a number of places still available, regarding especially to the skin spaces. And again, I put the link inside the chat window. We'll be following up with an email on this, so that'll be coming along soon as well. And I'd just like to thank all the panelists that have been here. So thank you very much to Jason. So thank you very much there to Juliet, to Jonathan, to Joe, and to Andy as well. So thank you very much, everybody. If anybody does have any questions afterwards, we'll try and get those answered as soon as possible after this Swiminar. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a great rest of this Sunday, and look forward to the Thames Marathon in August. Thank you.